Hello, hello, everybody. Hope everyone is having a good Monday night. Can't believe we're almost to the end of the year, and it just seems like it's flown by. In a weird way, it's been the longest year ever. And then it also seems like it just absolutely flew by 2020. So hope everybody is well. Hopefully getting some time in with family. And I've got a really great guest on tonight. One of my good hobby friends is here with me, Jeremy from YouTube channel Sportscards Live. And we're just going to kind of talk, very casual, hobby conversation. We'll talk about cards, we'll talk about life, we'll talk about sports, but also throw in any questions or any comments that you have in the chat, and we'll do our best to kind of get to that as well. It's going to be really casual. We've got a few topics that we want to cover, but nothing crazy. So feel free to comment, and we'll go from there. I should make an announcement too. I was able to get something set up with Chris, who runs the channel Baseball Card Collector Investor Dealer. And I'm actually really proud of this because I think this might be his first live that he's ever done. So I have the Oprah Winfrey exclusive on Chris's first live. So I'm excited about that. I think that's going to be on the 30th is when that's going to happen. He is actually in Europe right now. So we're going to do it at 5 p.m. Eastern on the 30th, which is going to be something like 11 p.m. his time. So, but we're going to make it happen. So thank you very much for joining. I'm going to go ahead and bring Jeremy in on the conversation. Hey man, how's it going? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good.
How's life treating you here that, with the holidays and everything? How's everything up in Canada?
It's all right, man. It's all right. We're excited. We got hockey starting on around the 13th of January. That's what they're saying right now. So we're excited about that. It just started snowing here where I am a couple hours ago. Apparently we're getting 20 centimeters of snow between today and tomorrow. So we'll see if I make it into work tomorrow or not.
Nice. Now, have you been doing a lot of remote work, or have you guys kind of been doing your thing and getting back to it?
I have not been doing remote work, man. I go to the office every day. Wow. Thankfully, I'm thankful that I get to. My kids are they're pretty crazy, so I get to go to work during the day and to come home and spend some time with them, and then do the hobby stuff. So yeah, I work in a retail business, so it's we need to be sort of on call and there to support our stores.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, good stuff. Well, let's go ahead and dive right into it. Francisco, how you doing? He says, "Hey, Jeremy."
Hello.
Capital Baseball Cards. Yeah, Netherlands. That's where Chris is. Or are you in the Netherlands? Capital Baseball Cards. Let me know that. Ed Lang, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
You just said Chris is in the Netherlands. Which Chris is in the Netherlands?
Yeah, Chris, the guy that runs Baseball Card Collector Investor Dealer. I'm going to have him on the 30th. Yeah, I was just saying, I've got the exclusive. It's going to be his first live. I'm like Donahue.
Yeah,
you remember that guy?
I do. Phil Donahue. I do remember.
I'm like Jesse Raphael.
That's right. Yeah, I do remember these guys.
So yeah, I'm excited about that. I'll have Chris on the 30th. But I was just saying he's in Europe. So he's like, hey, I stay up late, so we're going to try to do that. It's going to be 5 p.m. my time, which is 11 p.m. starting his time. So it's going to be kind of later for him, but hopefully we can make it all happen.
Sounds good.
So let's go ahead and dig into. We've got a few topics kind of that we were looking to get into. I wanted to just kind of, this is probably going to be the last live stream that you and I do together this year. What's been kind of just your overall, and this can be any sort of thought at all. What's been kind of your takeaway from 2020, whether it be, just anything hobby related, and then what are you looking forward to, in 2021? Anything stick out to you that you're excited about or wondering about?
Man, there's that question, like there's so much there, right? Because 2020 has just been so crazy for the hobby, in terms of many facets. Like obviously the cards have been going crazy, and that's something that, if you've been in the hobby for a while, you're happy to see it. It's great to see, especially if you own a lot of those cards. So I'm in that position. I've got a pretty collection that I love. And so I've been able to ride this kind of wave of increasing values, which has been a lot of fun to have, some skin in the game when that's going on. But just the growth that we've seen, all the new people coming into the hobby has been really, really exciting. And then, for guys like you and me who have YouTube channels and do live streams and make videos, just really what I will remember the most from 2020 is going to be just the friends that I made and the community that I became a part of, because it fills such a gap, especially during the pandemic and, the isolation, and that not just, that we feel, but everybody's up, kind of up against. I think all the hobby content, and even just the interaction, the engagement that we are able to get on our channels with our viewers, but also when we are out there, looking on Instagram, watching other YouTube shows, commenting, active participation in the live chats, Facebook groups, all that there's just been so much of that this year. And I'm new to YouTube. I only started in April, maybe just a little bit after you did. And
Yep.
It's just, I'm just so thankful for a lot of the friends that I've been able to make and these connections. It's like there's this whole new network that I've tapped into, and just really happy about it. And then the viewers too, like I know with you got viewers who you have these relationships with, and as do I. And it's kind of rewarding to be able to fill a need for a lot of these people, provide them with entertainment, and provide them with some insights into the hobby that perhaps they were looking for. So I'll remember 2020 for the community, for starting my YouTube show.
Yeah.
And then of course it'll be hard to ever forget what's happened with the values of the cards over the past 8 or 9 months. So I think
I think you're right. I think 20 years from now, you'll still remember 2020 as being a year to remember, not just for what's going on in the world, but just for what happened in the hobby. I agree. I think it's highly ironic that I made more friends in a 12-month span online that I had previously going and to actual live networking groups and like out into the world. I made more friends trapped in my house over the last 12 months. I think that's really ironic.
I think there's a reason for that. And it's the reason for that, I believe, is because we all, all these friends that you talk about, that I talk about, these new contacts in this community, we all have one very important thing in common. And that's that we love sports cards, and we like sports. For me, notice I said love sports cards and like sports, because I'm more of a card guy than a sports guy. And that's maybe I'm one of the exceptions. I know a lot of people love sports and then they come to sports cards. For me, it started as a kid loving sports and then collecting the cards. But now over the years, it's like I like the hobby more than I like the sports themselves. I still watch them and follow them and get excited from my teams and that sort of thing. But I love the cards, and I think so many other people do. And now we've found this platform to connect on, and it's like we can sit here, you and I. If there was no audience right now, we could sit here, we could have a conversation for 3 hours, and we would just be hanging out, right? We'd be having a great time. We're just hanging out with audiences now a lot of the time, especially on the live streams, which is just a lot of fun. So yeah, that's kind of.
Yeah, build on what you were kind of talking about earlier, because you mentioned, with the channel, you're able to entertain people. And I know that, you and I have had a few stories kind of back and forth about kind of really special ways that maybe, someone was going through a struggle and they reached out and, basically said, thank you for kind of providing that entertainment. What can you kind of delve into that a little bit? I know we had a couple of things that you had brought up to me.
Well, I mean, I feel it's kind of weird to talk about, because I don't want to talk about myself so much, but it is important still, that I get messages almost every day from people. I'm not just saying that, I'm not just saying I literally almost every day get a message from somebody, whether it's on, a direct message on Instagram, or it's a comment on the YouTube channel, or it's a Twitter message or a Facebook, whatever it is, basically just saying, thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for providing information. Thanks for what you're doing for the hobby. And it's humbling, and it's also, it's gratifying to know that your people are liking what you're doing. That's really what it comes down to. If you like what I'm doing, it makes all my efforts worthwhile. What it's like. You put out videos every day, sometimes twice. It's nice to hear that people are enjoying it, because it keeps you motivated. It keeps me motivated. It keeps me wanting to keep on doing it, because I know that people are benefiting from it and just seeing value in the content itself. So that's been very rewarding. And then just the other day, I got a message on Twitter from this this guy who watches my show, and I'd never communicated with him ever before. But he basically, and I pulled it up just so I could see it because it's a few messages long. But he basically says, do you mind? Can I read it? What he says? Do you mind?
Yeah.
He says, he goes, hello, Jeremy. We don't know each other, but I wanted to take a moment to thank you for providing all the content on your YouTube page. You've quickly become my favorite show to watch, and I want you to know that I appreciate everything you're doing for the hobby. Seeing the pictures of the O-Pee-Chee press was cool. I have faced very difficult health issues over the last 2 years, and I'm in the middle of a 6-month chemo treatment program. I'm only telling you this to share that your show brings me some true enjoyment during the difficult times. I love listening while getting my eBay orders out the door. I don't watch live, but later on after the recording. I just want to reach out and say thanks, and please continue doing what you are doing. It really means a lot to watch and be able to share your passion with you. Take care, Steve. And I'm like, I got that. And like, I almost teared. Like I read it to my wife, I read it to my mother. I'm like, look what I just got. Like, who am I to get this kind of message? Like, it's pretty nuts. So
yeah. No, and that's where, it's you do get that gratification of, okay, people kind of appreciate this and they like what they're seeing. But then when you see something like that, where that's someone that's really, really going through real struggles, and you're a part of kind of keep giving them momentum, kind of giving them something positive to look forward to, that's really special. That's kind of a differentiator to where it's like, okay, this is a little bit bigger than what I had imagined going into it. I had a similar story here recently where I have a follower. I have a viewer that had reached out to me. We were talking cards, and he told me, and by the way, this is just to let you know, this is something I'm going through. He had throat cancer, and back, I think it was in the spring, he had surgery to remove it. And today actually was the day where he had a follow-up meeting to find out if it was completely gone or if it, kind of the update meeting. And so I'm still working to find out what happened with that. But he said the kind of similar things like, hey, it's been really fun just getting as a part of this card community. And it's not just me, it's not just you. It's just it's the whole, sports card hobby and the community that's involved. And he just said, look, that's just been kind of a light for me to get through some really dark days, and it's like, dang, that's amazing. If there's one reason to do what we're doing, that's it right there. It's for this one person.
For sure.
So, I think that it's, that's the type of stuff that really makes a difference. So.
I agree. I mean, and like I've been in the hobby my whole life, like basically for the last 40 years, if you go back to when I was really younger, but, the hobby has always been in my life as a thing that I spend a lot of time, I focus on. I'm really committed to it. But now with the channel and the show, it's added a new layer to the hobby. So, when you talk about some of the viewers who reach out and that you're filling, you're providing them with some hobby content. I don't know exactly what everyone who watches my show, I don't know how they all approach the hobby. How do they hobby? Like, I know how I hobby, but how do they hobby too? And for them, hobbying has become watching a lot of the content, just like it is for you. I know I've heard you say a couple times, you don't need Netflix or Hulu. You watch hobby content all the time. I consume a ton of it myself. I love watching hobby content. So, that's become part of the hobby, is consuming the content, and it can take up a lot of time, as you well know. But it's become a part of it, almost a part of our lifestyles as hobbyists. So yeah, I'm thankful for it. I'm also thankful to have kind of gotten started when I did, and to become part of that hobby content creator community, because I think we, just like you and I as collectors, we share that common mindedness of being, like-mindedness of liking cards. But now you and I in particular, along with other content creators that we have collaborated with and forged relationships with, we share that we're creators as well, on top of being hobbyists. And that adds another layer of something we have in common, and will accelerate friendships, which is wonderful. I mean, like I've said before on my show, I got room for lots of friends in my life. So this has been a major source of friends for me, which is it's just cool. Even if we don't see each other in person. But what I know the second part of your question you started with was, and what do you look forward to in 2021? So I don't want to jump the gun, but I got an answer to that too. So
yeah.
Jump the gun.
Yeah, go ahead and jump the gun. Well, and also too, I think, one thing before we go into that, you've on your channel, for those that might be, new to Jeremy, he runs Sportscards Live. He's really interviewed kind of the who's who in sports card hobby over the last 7-8 months. And so if you have not checked out his channel yet, go back and take a look. He's got 70 episodes or so, 75?
Yeah, I just did episode 70 on Saturday of my main show, Sportscards Live. And then I have a show that isn't the main show. I have a secondary show. I call it After Hours. And I just did episode, I think 16 of that. So, and they're all pretty long. So 85 episodes or so, and then a few short videos as well.
But I mean, you've got people on there that, it's just like a wealth of knowledge on that channel, so it's the people you have on, whether it be Brian Gray from Leaf or Jim Beckett or, whoever it is that you're talking to, you can kind of pull from those conversations. And so I think for a lot of newcomers or, intermediate people, people that are, or advanced hobby people, it kind of like hits everyone can get something out of it, whether you're brand new to the hobby or you've been in it for 30 years. So definitely check out Jeremy's channel at Sportscards Live. If you haven't already, I'm sure many of you have. There's just a lot there, a lot to dig into. He's got a great archive of folks that he's interviewed, and it's going to keep coming. All right. So for 2021, you've interviewed, like I said, you've interviewed all these people. And for some, you had relationships with before you interviewed. And I know there's also new people that you've interviewed. What's your takeaway, as far as kind of heading into 2021, as far as the hobby is concerned? And you can tie in your content as well on your channel, but what do you see? If you have, do you have any thoughts on moving into 2021? Go ahead and expound on that.
Well, the hobby itself, I mean, I was on, I was interviewed by Jeff Wilson on the Sports Card Investor on his holiday virtual conference a couple of weeks ago. And he asked the same question, like, what do you look forward to in 2020? I said, Jeff, how do you top 2020? So I said, like, how do you top 2020? I don't know if we can. I don't know if we will. Hopefully we do. But that said, what do I look forward to? The biggest thing I'm looking forward to in 2021 is being able to go to a card show, hopefully the National, and seeing all these people that I've met this year virtually in person, and, clink a beer, have a high five, whatever, just be able to walk around the show for a few minutes here and there with a few different people and just look at cards together and, hang out afterwards, that kind of, I'm just looking forward to meeting so many people, both the people I've met through other content creators, and then also the people that watch my show and comment a lot during my lives. I look forward to meeting everybody and going to a card show. I think the next National is going to be just bananas, bonkers. It's going to be crazy. I think it's going to remind me of card shows from the really early 90s when you'd go and you couldn't even get to a booth because there were 5 people deep, and you just couldn't look at cards because it was like a mad rush to see the cards that were in all the vendors' booths. So I'm looking forward to that a lot. I'm sort of also looking forward to a little bit of stabilization to the market itself, because it will just feel healthier if it just sort of stabilizes and we don't see certain cards doubling every 5 days. I look forward to a bit more stability. And don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed the rise in values, which seems to be across the board for, most cards that are worthy of investing in, let's say. If you're collecting base sets, there's really no value there still, probably won't be in terms of, modern stuff, even older stuff. But if you're looking at, the important cards, I guess I'm looking forward to a bit of stability, and I'm looking forward to, man, that's it. That, and just getting out and meeting you, seeing you, and you and I have hung out. We've probably hung out like this for 12 or 14 hours now overall, and that's more than I see most of my closest friends in my life over a 3 or 4 year period, right? That don't live in my town, right? So, I mean, I just want to see these people, meet them, and hang out and hobby in person a little bit more than just virtually, although the virtual has been highly enjoyable.
I want to get your take on something. I was just thinking as you were talking, because a lot of what you're hearing kind of in the hobby nowadays it revolves around the high-end sales, whether it's that Wayne Gretzky card, the OPG, or I mean, you could name off I have a show coming out tomorrow, an episode coming out tomorrow. It's my weekly news. And a lot of it's dominated by just massive sales for the super rare stuff. And I guess kind of the big question, I always do hear the comment of, high tide raises all boats, or kind of something to that effect. And I don't, that these sorts of sales can happen in isolation. I don't necessarily think that just because, I think that, like, for the Gretzky, that can trickle down to the other Gretzky rookie cards. But does that mean that the entire, kind of all of hockey cards move up? I don't think that one sale has that sort of effect. I think that hockey cards could move up in general just because more people are coming into the hobby. But, I wanted to get kind of your take on that and I don't see, and then you kind of look at the big picture with the fractional share companies. Those guys are going to be fighting over those big sales, and that's before you even get to just the high end buyers. That's not even the fractional share companies. What about the billionaires and the multimillionaires that just want to put money down on the cards? So, I mean, I feel like those high end sales aren't going away anytime soon. That's my kind of hot take. I think that's going to keep on going. I just really wonder, how it's going to mean for kind of the middle class hobby, or the, kind of the lower to middle end of things. What's your take on it overall?
Lots of takes on this. So I think that the Wayne Gretzky PSA 10 sales that happened, along with other cards and other sports, have been breaking records lately. But those two, because I'm closest to hockey. I think that they are. I'm already noticing some. I'm noticing the effects of that already. I'm watching a lot of cards on eBay, and I'm seeing what they're selling for and what they're being bid up to. And I think that a lot of it is, Now, I don't know. This could have been happening even without those Gretzky cards selling, because there have been big sales all along the way. And remember, the two Gretzkys that sold, one was the Topps version, one was the O-Pee-Chee version. They're both Pop 2s in PSA 10s. And there's been thousands graded, so they're very rare in that condition. So whether they sold or not, who knows if we would see the sales we've seen subsequent happening, like PSA 9 Gretzky's, 8.5s, 8s, 7s. They're all selling for more than they were before. Mario Lemieux, kind of like it was him or Gretzky was the best player in the league when they played at the same time. Mario Lemieux's cards are on fire right now. They've really gone up in value. It's great to see. It's very deservedly so. So, did that Gretzky have an effect on the rest of the hobby, the rest of the hockey card segment of the hobby? I mean, I think there is something there, because it's not just Mario Lemieux. There's other players that we're seeing sell for more now too, even a week later. But we're not seeing it on, you're seeing it on investment caliber rookie cards of Hall of Famers and, going to be Hall of Famers. I don't think you're going to see it. And I haven't noticed it on all price points of the hobby, all players. If you're collecting an autograph set from 1999, 2000, for example, or 2005, 6, are those autographs going to go up in value? Probably not. Like, just of the average players, I don't see that really happening. But I definitely see it happening for the rookie cards of players that are collected, that are widely collected. We have seen that, and we're going to continue to, I believe. But what's going to happen in 2021? I have a few thoughts on that too, because there's a lot of things going on, a lot of extraneous factors. You've got the pandemic, and you've got the vaccine. And so there's finally a ray of light that, where society will go back to somewhat normal because of the vaccine. We'll be able to get to card shows again, and people will be able to travel. They'll be able to go to restaurants. They'll be able to go to sporting events. Now, it might not happen in the first half of 2021, but it may happen in the second half, if not by 2022, most likely. So when all that money is now going to get redirected from whatever it is in now, let's say cards, over to those, luxury items and luxury vacations, is the hobby gonna, as I've heard some people call it, tank? Is it gonna really tank because people are spending money on other things? Well, I don't think it's gonna tank. I think there are a couple of other forces happening that are gonna keep it balanced and maybe keep it going on the up and up. One of them is, I just heard today that in the US, there's more money being handed out. So there's more money being given out for people who may not need it, and they will be able to spend it on the hobby. That's not the big one. The big one to me, though, are what you mentioned earlier, the fractional ownership companies and the investment funds that are in this. And I know for a fact, and that there are investment funds coming in and snapping up these cards. And they are not going to stop doing that. And it's in their best interest not to stop. And they're going to become the market makers if they aren't already I believe. But they're going to become the market makers of the highest of the high end cards. And that will have that, a rising tide floats all boats effect on the cards that the retail collectors can actually afford to buy, most of the retail investors where, like I'm not going to go buy a PSA 10 Wayne Gretzky for 1.3 million, but I might buy a PSA 5 for $3,000 or $4,000. And a lot of people can afford that. But, a month ago, that was $1,500, not for $3,000 or $4,000. So because these fractional companies and these investment funds are going to continue to purchase these cards, which they have a great distribution channel for them, a sales channel being the retail fractional investor for $10 or $25 a share. I really do think that that will outweigh the effect of people going back to some other things that they used to do, like go on vacations and go to sporting events and gamble on sports. I think a lot of sports gamblers are going to realize that cards are a lot more fun than betting at the sports book in Vegas. Don't tell Vegas fine 777. I found that. I'd be curious to see what he thinks about. I'd be curious on his opinion on that because he lives in Vegas, and sports bettors they're a rabid bunch, right? But a lot of them, several of them, likely and hopefully discovered sports cards this year because it was a way to kind of play with money with sports, and will stick around for the action and for the collecting. I hope the collecting keeps a lot of them. So I am still bullish on the hobby. I'm bullish on the values. I think we are going to see ebbs and flows like you see in every marketplace in the history of the economy. But it's going to always trend upwards because it's always trended upwards in sports cards, always. And I don't know why that would stop. And you would say, well, maybe it would stop if this happened or that happened or that happened. Well, we didn't just survive a pandemic. We thrived in a pandemic. The hobby thrived. The hobby is very resilient to, it seems like, just about anything right now, because when you're in a moment of, when we're in a moment of pain or sadness or depression, and I mean, from different perspectives, you go to things that make you happy. Some people turn to illegal substances to get out of their head. Some people go to, whatever, spend time with friends and family. It's been tough to do that lately. So people I think have moved to cards, the hobby, and hobby content to fill in that void. So I'm kind of tangenting off there myself, but I think back to my point, I do think that we're going to see 2021 remain very strong in the hobby into the future. Ebbs and flows as per normal, trending upwards like we always have been. And I don't think that a government assistance, handout or people going back to traveling is gonna hurt the hobby, especially since we have, like I said a couple times already, we have these fractionals and these funds who have it in their best interest to keep on buying big cards.
Yeah, one thing I want to spin off from that. So I think that really could be a game changer as I'm thinking about it for fractional share companies is if they get a little bit creative with that inventory, meaning that, instead of it necessarily being a Patrick Mahomes RPA, maybe it's a Patrick Mahomes fund that is made up of silver prisms and red prisms, or, it's kind of it's got 100 cards in it that are worth, I don't know, $500,000, let's just say. And if you want to put money into Patrick Mahomes, that's a way to do it. You're kind of buying into a fund of multiples of cards, but that's where it could reach down to those more, middle class type cards that are more common, and that's where the fractional card companies could eat up that inventory. If they're coming in and buying that inventory and maybe they're paying a little bit of a premium to get it because they're trying to fill a fund with it or something. Yeah. I could see that being really a game changer if they're all competing over the inventory, because as much as we talk about how many cards are printed, because it is true, how many Zion rookie cards are out there, how many, Luka rookie cards were printed. But if you really break down how many are wanted, like really, the rarer ones, you're not talking about tons of inventory, especially if you have all the collectors that you have, and then you also have a dozen fractional share companies that pop up and they're all trying to get them. I think you're onto something there. I think we are going to see more fractional companies coming into the space and into the hobby. So I think that's definitely when you mention print runs, something that always kind of boggles my mind, and this might just be my inaccurate view of the landscape, but
you hear people talking about the massive populations on graded cards of the Lucas and the Zions, which they are. They're higher than 15,000 PSA 10s. Wow, 15,000 PSA 10s. How will the hobby ever absorb that? Well, I can tell you. You go to any basketball game, there's more than 15,000 fans that paid $150 to go to that game. One game. You're telling me that you're not going to find a third of them or a quarter of them or a fifth of them or 10% of them that want to own a card of Luka, maybe his everyday rookie card, like the base Prism. And then you just go out from there to all the other states, all the other fans and the basketball fans and the collectors. 15,000 cards, it sounds like a lot when you're comparing it to an RPA at a 99 or a limited auto out of 499, whatever it is. But 15, if you think about how many basketball fans there are or sports fans there are and collectors that would potentially want that card, I think it's got to be 150,000, not 15,000, because a lot of the untapped, a lot of these people who I'm speaking of, maybe they haven't been in the hobby long. They're not even in the hobby yet. Because of course I get not everyone that goes to a basketball game cares about cards or desires to own cards. But I think there's so much untapped potential in that marketplace for people to want to own cards. And with what we're seeing now, with it being all over the media, that there's going to be more, and we're noticing more and more people coming in. I think that the number 15,000 isn't that big. Now, it's certainly big relative to other populations of other important cards. I completely understand that. But I think when you look at the overall population and of sports fans, it's a drop in the bucket. So what I'm saying is I think there's a lot of potential even for those cards with big populations to still be attractive and to have value, because it's all based on demand, supply and demand, basic economics. And, the demand, I believe, is there, and I believe the demand is going to grow. The supply, people are saying, well, they printed more. Ziggy on his channel, he says that he tells a story that when the guy in Panini was on some channel and they said, we did 1 million last year in this month and 15 million this year in this month. And how did you do it? Well, we just printed more, with a smile on his face. Well, yeah, of course he's printed more. They have to meet their demand, right? So to me, that's okay. That's not a bad thing. It's because any worse, and no one's gonna be able to find product, which they complain. Everyone complains about that too, not being able to find product, right? So it's like, right, yeah, hobbyists often don't. They see what's there right then in front of them, but you got to think about the big picture a lot of the time and understand the dynamics of the whole market space, not just what's going on in front of you on that day. And yeah, man, I could go on for hours about this kind of stuff, but I mean, I think that the demand is increasing, and with it, the supply will increase year over year. It has to. It's only logical, and we can't forget these are businesses that are looking to make a profit and pay their shareholders this and that. So it only makes sense that they're going to produce what they feel they can sell, and if that's more than last year, well, hey, the market is growing. The market is growing. So yeah, why wouldn't they print more?
And we talk about it too. It's like they're smart enough to know that they can't print, 1 million, Prism. They need to go out. They're instead of like going up with the print run, they're going out. They're just printing different types of sets. So if you don't want like Hoop Series 3, Series 4, Series 5, or whatever it is, then don't buy it. But they're able to keep kind of those core products that people chase, and they're obviously aware of the Prism and the Select and the Optic, and then Upper Deck for hockey stuff. They're aware of kind of what's what, because a lot of those people were there in the early 90s when it's like, okay, like we've kind of learned, we've seen what works and what doesn't work. So I don't anticipate them print. I think they're just going to print more sets is what's going to happen.
Yeah. But I think I like that actually, Dustin, and I like it because in the early 90s, and I was around I had a card shop 91 to 94. And I remember on our shelves, we were selling all the junk wax stuff. I can still picture my shelves at the store. And it was the same thing over and over again, because back then the companies really only made one set each per year. They just printed the crap out of it. Now they've become more creative, more, there's more designs, which is important because there's so many different tastes of collectors. We all like something a little bit different. No two of us approach the hobby in the exact same way. And the fact that there's so many options out there for what you might find pleasing on your eye is a wonderful thing. I think it's going to attract more people into the hobby, so that they offer all these parallels with different numbering. It really does let somebody just kind of pick what they like. It really allows you to curate your collection a lot more specifically to your tastes than ever before. So instead of like ragging on the companies for all the parallels, like, I get that it sometimes can be annoying. Maybe I don't know if that's the word, but I do understand why some people don't like them, but that's not my position. And if I don't like them all either, but I don't feel like I'm forced to collect anything I don't like. So collect what you like. We have a ton of options out there, more than we've ever had. So you are able to curate your own collection for yourself. And if you're not going to worry about what everyone else is doing, then you should be pretty happy with that, with all those options that are presented to you.
Well, yeah. And if you or I are the CEO of Panini, our job is to make more money. That's it. Like, there's not, we can do, community things and all that stuff is fantastic, but that's all optional stuff that you do kind of, for your brand, to better your brand. But, Panini is, they're in kind of a boom time where, there's been a lot of lean years for Panini. Think about that. If you're running the business, 2012 Prism basketball wasn't flying off the shelves. They almost didn't make it after the first couple of years. So it's like, think about the lean years. And now they're probably thinking like, hey, this might go away. This might be the last year of it being hot. Who knows? We don't know. Let's print 50 different sets or whatever and have 200 Zion cards. I think that they have to do what they have to do. I agree with that. Let's go to the chat. Ben, hey, I wanted to let you know that I did pick up my first Hakeem Olajuwon 86 Fleer and a PSA 8. I'm excited. I don't know if I'm ever going to get it in the mail because the United States Post Office, I think they're just holding all the packages, which is making me actually really nervous because I've got some cards that are hanging out there that I'm worried about. But I did pick up a Hakeem. I know you're probably not happy about it because you always say don't buy Hakeem rookies. I got one, but I'm excited. I've talked with, I can't remember if I talked to you, Jeremy, or not, but I've turned my focus recently to 86 Fleer basketball. And because I don't have a lot of it, I don't own a lot of it. Certain players, not everybody, but I'm just thinking like, what set's going to be relevant in 50 years? What set will still be remembered? 86 Fleer basketball will still be remembered in 50 years. So I need to own more of it. So I've been doing a little bit more of a focus there. Super bad. I am actually in a different part of the house because of my internet connection. So, it's okay downstairs. I've done some lives downstairs where the paintings are, but have decided to, for my lives, just to be sure that I don't break up, I stay up here just to be on the safe side. I did see a comment. Oh yeah, Ben said should have nominated for president Jeremy. I think that was supposed to be that they wanted to nominate you for president. I think. Thank you, Playmaker. Appreciate that, buddy. Carl, good to see you. So much hockey at my stores, it's ridiculous.
In South Florida.
Mosaic Mind, collectors are the ultimate backbone of the hobby. Increase the number of collectors, you increase the viability of card investing.
I agree. I agree 100%.
A really exciting time for cards too, because if you think back, I think about when I was young, and it was, every single kid in school collected cards. So it was the mainstream thing to do. If we could get back to that point in today's world where that's what all the kids in school do, all the boys, then, now we have a whole different hobby that's different. The big downside is you can't get, that, I guess the major knock on the hobby right this second is you can't get Prism basketball, at all. If you're young, but there are other options. It's never been easier for you to get singles. When I was a kid, I was probably trying to go to Jeremy's card shop. That was the only place I could buy singles as a kid. When I was 10 years old, there was no eBay, there was no internet. So the only place I was buying singles was at the card shop. That's it. And paying a premium for them at the card shop. Now, if you're a young person, you have access to, to lots. Think about it. If you like a player, if you're a, Hakeem Olajuwon fan, you can literally go online and in 10 minutes order a huge lot of Hakeem cards and have those to look at, in a few days. So I agree. I'm excited. I hope that collector base that we had in 1990 comes back to where it's a very mainstream thing again. I think that would be awesome. And I would really like to kind of see just how that all happens, with with the hobby and everything else. I think that would be really cool. Any thoughts on that, Jeremy?
Yeah, I want to speak to Mosaic Mind's comment just briefly.
Okay.
The ultimate, because he says collectors are the ultimate backbone of the hobby, and that's true, because we can have people come and go, short-term flippers who have no success and decide they're done with the hobby. They lost a couple grand, I'm out. But collectors are the backbone. That's what's going to keep them going. What I do like about the state of the hobby today is that a lot of people coming in are discovering that they have the collector gene. They might have come in to make a quick buck, but they're discovering that they actually like the cards and that they have the collector gene. I think that's really important. And the other thing, to attract more people to the hobby, we and I mean we, the collective hobby. I think, if you feel like you have something at stake here, it's almost like I consider it my responsibility and other responsibility to help people find their way here. And to do that, I don't have the way really method, but to tap into someone's collector gene, you have to tap into their nostalgia, because nostalgia is what drives collectors. That's why we're collectors. It's not because we just like to accumulate things. It's because we like, well, some people might, but it's because we like to accumulate things that make us feel good. Like when we were kids and we collected kids as youngsters, collected cards as youngsters. I think that nostalgia is what drives collecting. So we have to dive into or tap into their nostalgia. There's one other thing though, Dustin, really important, is that we always hear these comments that there's no kids in the hobby isn't for kids. I want to redefine what a kid is when it comes to that, because the hobby is not for kids from 4 to 10 years old. It's not even for kids 10 to 14 years old. I don't think, unless, sure, there are cards that they can buy and love and play with, but eventually they're going to get to the point where they want the more expensive stuff that they might see their dad or their friends or people on YouTube opening, selling, whatever, trading. I look at kids now in the hobby as that like 16 to 25 range. And I know I don't mean to insult anyone who's 25 by calling you a kid, but younger people in the hobby, that 16 to 25, there are some extremely resourceful individuals in that age range who are playing with big dollar cards right now. And they're sports fans too. So that's the generation that I want to be looking and focusing on more so than the 4-year-old to the 14-year-old. They will grow up and become 16 to 25-year-olds. They'll have their phones. They'll be able to play on eBay. They'll have access to the credit cards, whatever it is. And, not just to go, carte blanche on their parents' credit card, but I mean, they'll be able to access the information in that 16 to 25 year age range. And those are the people that I think are going to be the future of the hobby, because there's so many of them in the hobby right now. I think the hobby's in a healthy position for the next generation because I see so many people in that age range. So anyway, when I say, it's sort of a take I have is that's the new kid level in the hobby. And that's where we need to make sure that age range is still active, because they're going to be the future, and not worry so much about 4 to 14-year-olds. Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with that take entirely. All right. This is a great question. And I want to kind of spin off. Is that a picture with Dirk, Jordan? It kind of looks like Dirk. Okay. Dustin and Jeremy, how often do you participate in breaks? Any success stories? And for me, I will say I have not done many breaks. I've done 2 breaks, I think, in my whole life. And let me kind of explain. The one that I did was with Steve, who runs the show Flipping Steve. And I think that kind of like so this is the way I kind of view breaks for me. I like doing them with my friends. I don't know. Like for me, I know there's a lot of people that like the rush of like, I just put down a few $100 and I'm in this National Treasures break. And, I get that. And I watch them too online. But for me, and I think that kind of going back to what Jeremy was talking about, for me personally, I do have that collector gene. I don't have a hoarding gene to where I've got, a million cards in the garage. Not yet, anyway. I say that now. My wife's like, "Yeah, you definitely have a hoarding problem." But I think that where it would kill me if I put down $70 on a break and I got no cards out of it. I would be thinking about, I could have put $70 on these 10. I could have bought Art Monk rookie cards, or whatever, a Howie Long rookie card, or anything. And so I think the gamble part, I'm not much of a gambler. I don't mind taking risks by any stretch. And I do know that there are
there are strategies involving breaking that are winning strategies that kind of, you can kind of work at a few different angles. I've heard of different angles. But for me, I just haven't gotten big enough into it. I think it's an important part of the hobby. I do think that. I think that it plays a role. But I think that if you're only in it for breaks, I think that it would be good to maybe try to look at some other things and see how you can, there's other ways to accumulate cards as well with your hard-earned dollar. So hopefully people get in, maybe they get into the hobby with a break, but then they kind of get in and they're like, oh, okay, here's a few other angles to look at it. How about for you, Jeremy?
Yeah, I've been in the odd break here and there, group breaks. There's a local card shop here that they used to have a monthly trader night, and I'd go there the third Wednesday of every month, and we just play Pack Wars or something like that, sort of a different style of group break. And I would do that for fun. I'm there. I got to put some money in his cash register. So I would take part in those. But I do typically, as a rule, I do not participate in online group breaks. It's just not my thing. There's a comment later. Ben Clark says breaks are a great way to lose money. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you can get really lucky, which is awesome, right? But no, for me, quite simply, I don't break a lot of product at all. I'm a singles guy. I'm a secondary market player. I like to find the single I want. No offense to breakers, because I rely on them for putting cards onto the secondary market. I'm thankful for them.
Sure.
But like Ben said, it's a quick way to run through your bankroll if you have one. And I'd way rather find a card, because what happened to me, Dustin, was I used to open product. So I'd go buy a couple boxes. I'd spend $400 or $500 at the card shop. I'd get $80 worth of cards, nothing I wanted. And I'd really drive home like mad at myself. Why did I do that? Why did I gamble on a blind box of hockey cards or baseball cards, whatever I was buying? And I'd get mad at them. And then I'd punish myself. I'd basically say, okay, now you got to sell something from your collection to recover that money. I did that if I lose money playing poker at the casino too. All right, you go lose $400, time to sell a card to replenish that money. So I'm not a big, I don't love it for myself, but again, I'm thankful it's out there. There is a product coming out this year in 2021 that I'm going to be I'm going to be buying as much as I can, because the Upper Deck Skybox Metal Universe Hockey is coming out in April, and it's right up my alley. I love the content, and I'm going to be opening up as much as I can of that stuff, and probably sit on some, open some, go on some group breaks. So, but that's a once a decade product for me.
Now, is a part of that the new rookie? Is it Alexi? Is that
the new rookie is Alexi Lafreniere? Yeah, he'll be in the set, but that's not a part of it for me. No, I'm actually no. It's more. It's the inserts. It's the throwback inserts, the jambalayas, the platinum portraits, the PMGs that are going to be in there. I'm more interested in those rare cards. That's what I like. And some of the veteran players too. I don't need the best rookie. I'm not a guy that chases the hot rookie every year, because I've just seen it too many times. The hot rookie doesn't always really last. So I'd rather spend a few more dollars later on, like a year or two from now. Like, I don't have a Zion rookie yet. Do I want one? Yeah, of course I want one, because Zion might be the next LeBron James. Do I want one? Yeah. Do I want one at today's prices? No, because I'm not sure he's going to be the next LeBron James. But 2 years from now, will I be sure if he is or isn't? Probably it'll be a lot more likely. We'll have a better read on that. Is it going to cost me more if he is? Yeah. So instead of spending $7,000, I might have to spend $10,000. Am I willing to do that? Yes, because if I did that for every player, spent $7,000 per player, you hit one, well, you're going to lose 14. I'd rather spend an extra 3 in 2 years versus lose 14 today. I don't know. That was some quick math in my head. I don't know if that made any sense, but that's kind of the way I look at it. I'd rather wait a little bit on some players.
I have a question for you, Jeremy, because I know there's been actually a lot of hockey card talk lately. It's kind of, and I've heard it all over the place. I've heard kind of a buzz about hockey cards. And, one thing I wanted to ask you, because I did kind of a similar thing. I reached out to you. I've been looking at Mario Lemieux Topps rookie cards, because I think Lemieux, he's just one of those guys. You talk about Wayne Gretzky, but Lemieux was a very dominant player. He's a top 3 player of all time hockey. I'm not a hockey guy, but I think I can confidently say that. So are there any, just like in basketball where you had, a lot of kind of like junk wax, like early 90s, but are there those PMG kind of 90s inserts for hockey cards that are similar in rarity, or early 2000s that came out?
There's some late 90s stuff. There was a Fleer metal product in hockey in 97, just like there was in baseball, football, basketball. Just for some reason, hockey didn't get the PMGs. It's got the same looking base cards, but it didn't get the PMGs, which is too bad. But it's too bad. But what's good about it is that when Upper Deck put out Fleer Retro in 2012, they had that contained the first licensed PMGs for hockey, so which made them more accessible for a guy like me to go back a couple years ago and start picking them up. But to your question, yeah, there are some really rare inserts from the 90s in hockey that a lot of people chase. I'm not an expert in that era of hockey cards. I know some of them, but I don't know all of them. There's some guys that know a lot more than I do. But Starquest Golds is a good example where you had them in other sports as well. And I don't know what the print. I think their print runs 100, but they're tougher to find than a PMG out of 10. You just can't find them. They go for a lot of money when they do appear in all sports. Like we haven't seen a Michael Jordan for a long, long time, all year, I don't think. So if you were to find a Wayne Gretzky Starquest Gold, that's going to be nowadays that, especially if it's high grade, I can see that being $20,000, which is nothing compared to if it was Jordan, would be $200,000. But that's one of the benefits we have in hockey right now is that it's a lot more affordable to get the cards that are really highly pursued and really, truly, truly rare. So there are for now. So there are cards from the 90s out there to answer your question. I'm just not great at telling you exactly what they all are.
Okay. Interesting. All right, let's go back to kind of that 20. We're going to kind of circle back to, we were talking about when we first started, just content in our channels and, that piece of it. As far as your channel goes in 2021, I mean, you've had so many great interviews in 2020. I mean, so many great ones. Do you have, kind of folks that are kind of on the horizon? You don't necessarily have to share, but, are there any kind of new things or new people that you're looking to bring on in 2021? Or how do you see kind of your channel going in 2021? Are you going to be doing this 7 nights a week?
Well, I slowed down already, man. Like for the first, I started the middle of April up until the early December, like just earlier this month, I kind of stopped doing the Wednesday show because it was just a lot of work to do 2 lives. Because I don't just come on my live. I do a preparation session with my guest a couple nights before. And then just the booking, it was getting to be a lot. And so I've said, I'm not going to do the Wednesday show. I'll just do the Saturday night show. I still do the after hours. So I'm still doing 2 live shows each week instead of 3. But I'm going to start using that Wednesday night time now to produce some educational type of videos that I'm thinking about doing. And I've started to write some content out for that. Like really try to provide some value to people in terms of just leveraging my experience and some of my knowledge of specifics within the hobby, within certain cards even, and sharing some of that. That's kind of what I'm planning to do. As for my guests, I mean, I'm going to kick off strong. This coming Saturday, I've got Dr. James Beckett on with me. It'll be his 2nd time on the show. And so I'm excited to have him back. And then this is actually kind of cool. This Saturday on the after hour show, after him, I have young Charles coming on with me. Charles is a 14-year-old vintage collector who will blow your mind because he's 14 years old. But I've kind of tasked him this week to compile data before and after the Gretzky sales in terms of other cards in the other hockey cards in the hobby to see how they've been doing. So we're going to have some actual data to support the question you asked me earlier on Saturday late night. And then the week after, I've got Josh Johnson from Cardboard Chronicles and Card Ladder joining me on January 2nd. So I'm excited about that because he's a younger guy. He's newish in the hobby, but the guy sees it. He sees it. It's like we'd say in hockey, like Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid. They can see the ice. They have the what's the cliche for it? They have hockey vision. And I think Josh Johnson has hobby vision. He just gets it. He just processes all of the stimulus he takes in and can really articulate what it is he sees. So I'm excited to have him on. And then the Saturday after that, Dr. James Beckett's coming again for part 2 with me. So I got kind of 2 sessions with him coming up. And then I got a few other things scheduled in January. But afterwards, I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing, bringing in great guests, I bring on hobby insiders, passionate collectors, and content creators. So I'm going to continue in those 3 streams, inviting those kinds of people on with me. And I want to maybe bring on some more collectors that aren't, I've had on people from Upper Deck, Panini, Beckett, the fractional ownership companies, Star Stock, ComC. Like I've covered off a lot of the companies in the hobby that we all hear about. Card show owners, the national, the expo, anyway, I want to bring on some more collectors and talk a lot about the cards and, really showcase for the audience, like how many different approaches there are to the hobby and open some people's eyes. Cause sometimes, you collect what you collect, and then you see something somewhere and you're like, oh man, I'm going to start collecting that too. Those are cool. I hear it all the time. So I want to continue to open people's eyes to what's out there. I saw a card today on Instagram. I've been collecting Michael Jordan cards for a couple of years now, and regularly I'll still see a card I've never seen before. And it kind of like, whoa, I've never seen that one. I thought I'd seen them all by now. So I kind of want to bring that to everybody else and say, here's what else is out there. And I want to continue to be an advocate for the hockey segment because I love the cards. I think they're the nicest in the hobby, and we have the best patches possible. Upper Deck makes a beautiful product, and I want to continue to advocate and sort of be a bit of an ambassador for the hockey segment and help that grow. So there's a bit of my plans.
I love it, man. I love it. I can't really pretend like I've got anything majorly different in 2021. I'll probably continue just to kind of do the same sorts of things. But I think that as, things kind of expand, you have new companies that pop up that'll be interesting to talk to or to talk about, whether it's a live or if it's a taped, type video, recorded video. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun. I'm probably just going to continue on with the same sorts of stuff. So for those that are kind of getting like jet lag from all the videos that I put out, it'll probably be a similar story in 2021. I did see a question in the chat of when kind of the pandemic, starts to figure itself out and we get on to normal life, well, you can continue to create content. And I don't have any plans of slowing down. For me, this is something that was kind of born out of that situation, but it's not like I have a lot of time on my hands and then I'm going to go to not having a lot of time on my hands. I'm still working full time and, like still juggling the family stuff. So that's not going to change. So
I think the advantage you have, Dustin, is that you put out, you do your lives once a week or so, or sporadically, but your videos are nice and short, 10-minute video, 8 to 12 minutes. That's a real nice sweet spot. And I think that's contributed to your success and to the amount of eyeballs that have kind of landed on your channel and subscribed and watch you currently. Plus, you're just pleasant to watch. I've told you this before. It kind of sounds funny, but you're just pleasant to have on and listen to. And like I love how you say we're just here to start the conversation. You're not coming across as an expert or telling people what or how to do. You're just out talking about it, documenting your journey, and that's a real likable approach to take. And I think my advice to you is, it's fun. It's fun what you and I do and all the other content creators, because we can always tweak what we're doing. But I think you stick to what people are now expecting from you, and just sort of light tweaks here and there to supplement what you're already doing, but stick with the good core stuff you're doing. I hope you continue to do it.
I appreciate that. Same to you. Ziggy says, anything you wish you had done differently in 2020? And to be honest, I wish I had started sooner. I think because I had been, back into cards for a couple of years, and I started doing the channel about 9 months ago. But I didn't really have a game plan coming. I didn't have a TV background or any sort of YouTube, experience. And I was kind of one of those guys literally that was talking about it for months. Like I remember telling my wife, like, man, I want to start a channel. It'd be fun to do. And it was kind of like one of those things like, well, are you going to do it or are you not going to do it? And then like March rolled around. It's like, you know what? Like life is short, like I need to. And then I've been watching, I was watching a lot of, Gary Vee. We've talked about this. Whether you like Gary Vee or not, the one thing that he is highly motivational, and he's a big believer just kind of in general of express yourself on social media, whatever you're into, find what you love and do that. And so after hearing that 1,000 times, and then also seeing that all of the advice that he always gives people, it's funny, people ask him questions as to what to do in business or what to do, whatever, to be happy. And literally his advice, like 99% of the time, is just make more content, and then when you get tired of that, make more content, so then it was like, I keep hearing this over and over and over. Why am I not doing it? And then I started to see, doing it and then enjoyed doing it. And then, found the community and it all kind of worked itself out. Do you have anything that you would have done differently in 2020, Jeremy?
The only thing that I can think of that I would have done differently was I would not have sold 4 PSA 7 Wayne Gretzky's, 1 BVG 7 Wayne Gretzky, and 3 Mario Lemieux PSA 9s. I would not have sold those back in June at the first virtual show.
Let me add to that. I sold all of my Luka and Patrick. I didn't sell all of my Luka early, but I sold a lot of Luka early and a lot of Patrick Mahomes early, way too early. My Pat Mahomes stuff, I would have been in nice shape, but we all have those stories. So I'm not going to.
Yeah. And you know what? And I'm not like, well, sure. I wish of course, hindsight 2020, all that, of course, I wish I didn't, but I'm not kicking myself because I took the money I sold them for. I bought a nice Michael Jordan card that did as well as those did. So, how can you complain, right? I'm glad that I passed. I think by selling some good cards, some other people would have been very successful with what they bought from me. And that's a good feeling. They'll stick around the hobby. So I'm happy about that as well.
Absolutely. I have to say hi to my brother-in-law that just got on the chat. Uncle Benny cutting in. Looking forward to seeing you over the holidays, buddy. All right. What do we have here? Let's go back to the chat. Gary V rocks. I do agree with that. Dagger. Like your lack of arrogance. I wish there was more people have it. I appreciate that, Craig. I do my best.
Well, it's a great thing about you, man.
I appreciate it. Chris, a lot of you already know Chris, Vegas Find 777, hilarious channel, and knows a couple things about cards too and collectibles. He knows a little bit, but he's, man, I don't want to say the most entertaining, but he's right up there. He's right up there.
I like the one video he did was like, pew, 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 he starts shooting away.
The best part about watching his video is you never know what joke is coming and which angle he's going to take. That's the best part, I think, about watching this stuff. You could literally, Chris, you could be talking about anything, not even cards, and I would watch your channel. Yeah. That's where it's at. John, how you doing? John from JPO Art. Good
evening, John.
Patrick Mahomes, that hurts. Looking for PSA 10 optics. Yeah, I didn't have any PSA 10 optics. Oh, announcement. I just went over 100 people. There's 101 people watching. That is an all-time high for me. So thank you for everybody. That probably means that like Brad, the comeback card investor, logged into 14 different accounts. So I appreciate you doing that, Brad, and coming on and watching with all those accounts. All right. Mosaic Mine. I stored cards in boxes for 30 years now. Some of the cards have faint brown stains. Anything I can do about it? This is not something that I am an expert on at all. Jeremy, do you have any insight into this sort of thing?
I don't know. I don't. I'd be very careful before I try to remove anything from a card. That's, there's different people have different opinions on those sort of activities. I'd just be careful. Just be careful.
Let's segue into hockey season. So I saw the announcement there's going to be hockey season. Was it something that you knew was coming, or was it kind of like in limbo as to whether or not they were going to do it or not? And it was, how did that go about?
It was in limbo. I just heard it was, I think Friday, I was driving home from work. I got in my car. It was like 5:30 and I turned on the sports radio channel here. And the first thing I heard was, breaking news. The NHL and the NHL Players Association just agreed to a 56-game schedule, and the league made agreements with 5 of the 5 provinces in Canada for travel and play and all this and that. So it's on starting January the 13th. We're going to have the season, and the playoffs are going to start in May. So I was pretty excited about that. First thing I did was I called up Billy Celio, who works at Upper Deck, and he's one of the product managers. I said, did you hear the news? He's like, no, what? I said, hockey's on. He's like, no way. I'm like, yeah. He goes, oh, so I'm going to be able to put rookies into Series 2. I'm like, yes, you are. So I said, I'm just happy I got to break the news to Upper Deck that the season was on. But and then just today on my way home from the office, I heard that there's been more stuff worked out. Now there are some challenges, I think. Ontario, which is the province that Toronto's in, for anyone who may not know, is going to like a province-wide lockdown on Boxing Day. So we'll see what happens come the 13th. But the guys on the radio today were talking like this is happening on January the 13th, one way or another, the season starting. So That's very exciting. It's very important because if it's just important, man, because it's like, what would Upper Deck do if there wasn't a season? What would they produce for the fans? Like, I think it would be very damaging to them if there was no season.
Now, kind of on the back of that, the Alexi rookie, and pardon me, I don't follow it. So, but does he have the same kind of, like, is he like Sidney Crosby type hype coming into the league, or like, is he big time, or is it more just kind of like he's the best rookie this year, or is he kind of like multiple years, like this guy's the real deal?
Yeah, it's the latter. He's so, just like in any sport, every few years you get one of these generational players. We had Sidney Crosby came in 2005, and then it was 10 more years till Connor McDavid came in 2015. Alexis Lafreniere is the next in that line. Now, I don't think he's expected to be as good as Connor McDavid, but I think he's expected to be almost as good as Connor McDavid. And I don't think there's anyone else in the league that has come into the league since Connor that is expected to be as good as Alexi is. In 2016, you had Austin Matthews, born in Arizona, plays for the Toronto Maple Leafs, scored 4 goals in his first game. The hobby went crazy. He's still a great player. But I believe that Lafreniere is supposed to be like a little bit better than Austin Matthews, and just not quite as good as Connor McDavid, but will still be like the darling of the hobby for a while. And I've heard this from scouts who have said that this guy is the real deal. So I had an NHL scout on my show a month and a half ago or so, and we talked about it, like, how good is this guy going to be? And he says, from what I've seen and what I'm hearing, he's the next guy. So that's a big deal. I think he is going to be that good. I'm hopeful for the hobby's sake. I don't care about the Rangers that much, except I have some buddies that cheer for them, but I'm hopeful.
Are the Lightning expected to go back to back? Is there kind of like, did they lose anybody in free agency, or, what's the kind of like when we look at basketball, the Lakers just kind of reloaded and they're kind of the favorites to repeat with LeBron. How is it looking in hockey, or is it just kind of a, different every year?
Yeah, every year there's a few teams in the East, a few in the West that everyone thinks it's going to come down to these two. And then they get, like 2 years ago, Tampa Bay was far and away the best team in the league in the regular season. And they got swept in 4 games in the first round of the playoffs by the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Vegas finds favorite hockey player Artemi Panarin, who played for them at the time. He's now moved to the Rangers. But this year coming up, my pick for the Stanley Cup win is the Colorado Avalanche, which isn't good because I'm a Calgary Flames fan, and they're one of our nemesis. But I think they're just that good. We talk about the best player in the league right now. It's clearly Connor McDavid, but a very, very close second is Nathan MacKinnon on the Colorado Avalanche, and I actually think he's just an amazing player. He brings different things to the game than Connor McDavid does. But he's a great player, and he leads that team. They've got a great defense, great forwards. Their goaltending is kind of their one area where it's a little bit questionable with this Philip Grubauer, but he's shown some brilliance as well. So I think they're the winners. I think it's going to be, wow. That if I had to lay a bet, I'd bet on the Colorado Avalanche. Okay, interesting. I'm going to answer this question from Superbad. What do you guys think of Baker Mayfield? My in-laws are huge Browns fans. They live in Dayton. So my second team, I'm a huge New Orleans Saints fan, but my AFC team is the Cleveland Browns. And in part because my in-laws love them, but then also it's hard not to root for the Browns when they've just had such a rough go of it over the last really 25 years since Bernie Kosar left in the 80s and Belichick went elsewhere. So I'm rooting for the Browns, and I like Baker Mayfield's bravado. He's got some swag, I guess, or whatever, and he's playing really confidently right now. I just hope the Browns do great things for no other reason than it's a deserving franchise that hasn't had a whole lot to cheer for here recently. And so I'm pulling for the Browns. I like Baker long-term. I think that he's a good QB. I don't know if he's ever going to be, Drew Brees or anything, but who will, right, guys? I mean, he's Drew Brees. I'm a little biased. Can you bring up the question from Kyle Tremblay at 807? Let me go back. I'm glad you gave me the timestamp because I wouldn't have seen. I've learned that trick from doing my show. You got to watch those timestamps. We can get.
Oh, no, 8:07 your time, right?
Oh,
So
80, yeah, 10:07 your time. Sorry.
Okay.
He says, "Are you happy with Gary Bettman handling COVID satisfactorily and progressing hockey acceptably?"
Yeah.
I mean, I am. I'm one of the very minority people who think that Gary Bettman's done a great job overall in his tenure as commissioner of the NHL. People love to hate this guy, which is in direct contrast to David Silver, the NBA. Everyone loves this guy. Gary Bettman was a protege under the former, what was his name, right before David Silver, the NBA, the commissioner.
David
Stern.
Stern, yeah.
Stern. So Gary Bettman actually was like assistant or something like that to David Stern in the NBA for several years, and then was like plucked away to become commissioner of the NHL. I think he's done a good job, but he gets booed at everything he goes to. I think people just don't like the way he carries himself or talks, but I think he's done a great job. I think we got the season done. We got the last season was done, and it was awesome. It was very exciting. And this season seems to be coming together. And he's getting along with the Players Association right now. So, yeah, I think he's done a formidable job, if I can say. There was one other question, Dustin, that I saw here that I wanted to speak.
Yeah, which one?
Although it's going to be hard for me to find it now. So I might not be able to. I'll keep scanning for it, though, unless you can find something else.
Do you think Erik Karlsson is a Hall of Famer? I'm assuming that's a hockey player because I don't know Erik Karlsson.
I don't. I mean, yeah, Erik Karlsson is a great defenseman. He played for the Ottawa Senators for his whole career, and then he just moved to the San Jose Sharks. Doug Wilson, GM of the San Jose Sharks, really handicapped that team by signing Erik Karlsson to $10.5 million for 8 years, something like that. Ridiculous because he's injury prone. He's not going to play a full season. He's an offensive defenseman. I think that was the worst signing, one of the worst signings. I mean, it's weird to say because there's been some horrible signings in hockey, but that was I just think that Doug Wilson messed up that signing big time. I definitely do not think he's a Hall of Famer, Erik Karlsson, not even in the discussion at this point. He hasn't done anything to get to warrant it.
This is a good question from Brent. Any up-and-comers, kind of second or third year hockey guys that you think could really kind of break out this year, young guys?
Yeah, there's one in particular, Elias Pettersson on the Vancouver Canucks is, I think, going to be really a great player. He needs to put on a few pounds still, but he's going to be a great player. I really like Braden Point and I know he's Brad's I think he's Brad's favorite too. Braden Point on the Tampa Bay Lightning is a great player. He's not a second year guy. I think he's more of a fourth or fifth year guy. There's a lot of talk in the hobby about, especially on content, Jack Hughes for the New Jersey Devils. He's a prospect. He was the first overall draft pick, but he's not a Connor McDavid or what we hope Alexis Lafreniere will be, or even an Austin Matthews. He's really done nothing yet, but could be a breakout player and, first overall draft pick. So that gives people a lot of confidence. You got Kyle Connor in Winnipeg, who's, I believe, going to be a great player. Patrick Laine, a goal scorer for the Winnipeg Jets, could be the next Alexander Ovechkin. I saw Chris mentioned, I think it's Joe Cirelli, maybe. Is it Joe Cirelli? I think his name is, a Tampa Bay guy. I don't know about this guy. He's a small player. Then again, in my daily fantasy DraftKings during the playoffs, I was picking him because he was, Tampa Bay was scoring a lot of goals and he was getting points. So, Chris's Artemi Panarin, he's also, his rookie card, I believe, is 2016. And I think it was 2016. Anyway, he is a great player. He does have the potential to be on the top 10 scoring in the league, especially with these young players he's got coming in now with Lafreniere and Capo Caco, who was, it's a funny name, but Capo Caco, also for the Rangers, is a guy who could explode as well. So yeah, there's a few. Whenever I get asked this question, I'm always like, damn, I need a list. I need a list of the teams and the players. So I'm not going to forget anybody. So I'm sure I missed some real key guys there, but that's kind of what I'm thinking right now.
Those are good insights. I'm going to seg over now. We're going to move over. So this is something, when I first started watching Jeremy's channel, I kind of just thought like, okay, well, he's this is like a hockey guy, like a hockey card guy. And then there was one episode he did where he pulled out his vintage basketball card collection, and it was like every vintage basketball card that I ever want to own. Jeremy has it. So my point is that Jeremy's a big collector of all four of the major sports, and so Jeremy, as far as your collecting focus goes, I assume you're probably always kind of looking out for each sport, but is there a focus right now? Are you zeroing in on, basketball or football, or is there anything in particular that's caught your eye, or are you kind of all over the place and just kind of seeing what's out there?
Yeah. I mean, just for the viewers, like I'm a guy, I collect 1888 to 2020 and I collect all sports. So I got my eyes on a lot of different things, and my collection has historically been based on Hall of Fame rookie cards, all sports. So I have a pretty deep rookie card collection of baseball, football, basketball, hockey. Hockey's the deepest, followed by baseball, followed by basketball, followed by football. And so there's only a few cards I'm still looking for from any of those sports, I still need a Willie Mays rookie, and I've got just about everybody else. I don't have a Willie Mays rookie or a Ty Cobb, so those are the two big baseball players I'm still looking for, and I'm waiting for the right copy. I've been watching for Willie Mays for 5 or 6 years now. I've seen many go by. There's a PSA 6 that's up on eBay right now, but it's got this streak going right through it. I don't want that card. I'd rather have a nice PSA 4. So I'm always on the lookout for the Hall of Fame rookies that I don't have. And again, that list is getting smaller and smaller. It's very small now. I also love inserts, rare inserts from the 90s and the 2010s and the late 2000s. I just love that stuff. And I'm watching for a lot of that, mostly hockey that way. But as far as other sports inserts, I'm focusing 90s basketball and 90s baseball. And when you say, do I have a focus right now? It's the baseball. That's kind of where my eye is going right now, because I've kind of rounded out my collection. My 90s inserts collection for basketball is looking pretty good right now. There's of course there's more I want, but they're so darn expensive. I think baseball is a nice sweet spot. So there's a couple things I'm looking at there, and I don't want to give away much more than that, because I want to be able to not have people bid up against me, but
you don't want to be bidding against the people watching. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Kind of got to keep a couple things close to the vest.
Well, you can throw out a general answer to this. As far as the 90s basketball inserts go, Michael Jordan is obviously the name that pops up there. Do you also buy into other players as well that you like that might be Hall of Famers? You don't have to say who they are, but do you also look outside of Jordan, or outside of, the kind of Shaqs, outside of those guys from the 90s?
Well, so that was my answer, is Shaq. I mean, I grew up loving Shaq. I remember Shaq coming into the league and just how big of a personality he was. I really think it's important, if you're going to focus on a player, that you either have to have a personal connection with that player, and if you don't, then you want to collect somebody who you think is going to be relevant post playing days. And to me, Shaquille O'Neal is still very relevant. So, and I remember him. So he brings a smile to my face thinking about that big goofy guy, right? So I collect Jordans, I collect Shaquille O'Neals, and a little, I think I have 1 or 2 Kobe's, and I have one Ray Allen card, because I really liked him in that one movie that he was in, which the name is escaping me right now. I loved that movie. I thought he was awesome in it, and it made me a fan of Ray Allen, and so I had to buy one of his cards. But yeah, it's Jordan, Shaq, and I'm starting to look at some more Kobe's now too, under the influence of my friend Adam, the Real 27 guy, who talks about Kobe nonstop. So it's worn off of me a little bit. But how can you not love Kobe? And especially with the tragedy earlier this year, it's like, that's a legend. That's an icon. He'll never be forgotten. So that's how I kind of focus when I'm looking. So when I talk about baseball, I'm looking for those kinds of players as well.
Pete says, gold medallions. I traded a Shaq one for a few Grant Hill cards back in junior high. Interesting. All right. Oh, Ziggy asks, do you have any favorites as far as kind of those newer inserts, whether it be Color Blast, Kaboom, Marvels, or Downtown?
Well, for me, I've owned one Kaboom. I owned a Tom Brady. I don't remember what year it was. I sold it back in July, and I sold it because I liked it better on eBay on my screen than I liked it in hand. I know some people love them, and that's cool. So I'm not a huge fan of Kabooms. Marvels, I'm not a huge fan of Marvels. I think they look neat, but I don't know. I like my superhero cards to be more PMG type-ish, I guess. It's really comic book cover art. And I'll say this now, and 3 months down the road, you might hear I'm buying them up. So my taste changes too. I'm very comfortable with my taste changing and my PC being fluid. Cards can come into it and go out of it. I mean, if I've got 3,000 cards in my PC, like 100 of them are kind of on the verge of coming out, and 100 of cards in my inventory on the verge of coming in, sort of thing. Like I'm very comfortable with being fluid with my collection. And the other ones that he had in that, I can't remember. Oh, the Color Blast. I've never held or seen a Color Blast in person, but what I see, I think they look beautiful. And I think downtowns are cool. I don't, even they're a little, comic book looking like. I think they're pretty cool. I don't own any, and I'm not really looking for any, but I'd own one.
Okay. All right. Good stuff.
Oh, can I, Dustin? Sorry, because I heard if Ziggy's still watching, I want to address something that I heard Ziggy saying about Color Blast. And Ziggy, if you're listening. And a lot of people hold this opinion that, it's like they're putting Color Blast in everything. You're cheapening the brand of Color Blast. And I agree and I disagree with that. If I can quickly explain, I agree because, yes, you're putting out too many. You're putting out so many. And it's like, well, are they as interesting as they once were? But at the same time, a lot of people want that continuity. They want to collect that same card. So what I like about it is that if they stuck it in one brand and put it in that one brand every year, I'd be all for it. But what I think Ziggy's issue is that they're putting it in all the brands. And that, I think that's where I'm like, that might be too much, where that's kind of where I agree. But it's nice to see a card come out every year and people can collect it and build that one specific insert year over year. I just want to say that out loud.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, for the amount of money that people pay for Color Blasts, I mean, there's some serious dough being thrown around on Color Blast. So I could understand, I guess, if it isn't everything, it does kind of cheapen it to some degree. But
yeah.
All right, I think we're going to wrap up here pretty soon, guys. We're about an hour and 21 minutes in, so we're going to wrap up here pretty soon. But if there's any other questions or anything or just statements, go ahead and throw those out there. The 93 Topps Finest Refractors, are we talking about basketball here, Craig? Because I remember if we're talking about basketball, I found, so my mom had brought me my old cards when I was a kid, and I found a Penny Hardaway Topps Finest. I don't think it was the refractor. I think it was just the regular one, but it made me want to go buy more of those just because I remembered them when I was a kid, and I was thinking like I might want to have a few graded ones, but I haven't gotten them yet. I've just had other priorities.
I see Ziggy asked a question a while ago. He was asking me directly if I do breaks and do I chase retail too. We addressed breaks earlier, I guess, before he was watching, and I don't do breaks very much at all, but I do not chase retail. I do not at all chase retail. I prefer hobby products. Okay.
All right, cool. Well, I think we're going to wrap up, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. And we'll have Jeremy back on. Check out his station if you have not already. Many of you have, but Sportscards Live is the best hobby interview channel that there is, in my opinion. So definitely check out Jeremy's channel. We'll have him back on. We'll have him back in the rotation to come back here soon, hopefully. But thank you very much for tuning in, guys. We appreciate it, and hope you have a great rest of your week. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you again later. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Dustin.